What's goody, Shellitronnn here. You can call me Shells, and I'm back at again with a brand new video. And I'm gonna keep it a Bowberry biscuit. I know it's only been 1 week. It's only been one game for the Carolina Panthers, but it is never too early to start asking those hard questions. It is never too early to start asking those hard questions. And let me tell you, there are a lot of hard questions that the Panthers front office and coaching staff need to answer. And it's not just about one player. And it's not just about one side of the ball either. But for right now, we're going to focus on one player on the defensive side of the ball. This is a guy who, when he got signed, I think fans had high hopes because we understood the linebacker core was very weak. Yes, we did just extend Shaq Thompson to a 4-year, $54 million deal. And Jermaine so far has looked like the perfect addition to the team at the linebacker core. He is strong. He's fast. He has great coverage skills. That is everything you want to have in an outside linebacker. And he can play strong safety. Well, really, he's a strong safety playing linebacker. So I'm cool with that 100%. But when Tahir Whitehead joined the team, there were two things we knew about him for sure. One, he is very solid, or has been very solid in the run game historically. And two, this man will not bring anything positive to your team in coverage. On passing downs, if Tahir Whitehead is not blitzing, he is a net negative for your defense. We knew what Tahir Whitehead was when we signed him. The Raiders knew what they had, and that's why they let go of him. Tahir Whitehead is a very impactful player in the run game, but you know what you're going to get from him in the pass game, and it's not very much at all. In fact, you might actually lose something by having Tahir Whitehead on the field during passing down. So the question has been asked almost 100 times since the end of that game against the Raiders. Should the Carolina Panthers bench Tahir Whitehead? That's a hard question, I think, because a lot of the times when you get these kind of questions about benching a player or cutting a player or firing someone, you always get the suggestion to let someone go, but you hardly ever hear an argument for who should play instead of them, who we should bring in, and how much better they would actually be than that person you just let go. So I went ahead and peeped our options. So I'm going to let y'all know what I believe all of our alternatives are for Tahir Whitehead starting on this defense. And I'll give you my opinion on whether or not those are good alternatives or if they end up actually being worse for us. Now, the number one most obvious piece you can probably slot in instead of Tahir Whitehead is Jermaine Carter. This is a guy who's been a backup his whole career, but most fans are aware of Jermaine Carter. They've seen him come into games. They know who he is. But the main problem of asking JC to come in instead of Tahir Whitehead is that Jermaine Carter is an outside linebacker and Tahir Whitehead plays middle linebacker. The linebacker spots aren't like our wide receiver core situation where we have 3, maybe even 4 guys who can play outside in the slot and do different things. It's not the same kind of responsibility. What you do in the middle linebacker spot is very different from what you do in the outside linebacker spot. And JC is a very serviceable backup. But there's not too many people who would make the mistake of actually calling him starter level talent, a guy who can play 70, maybe 80 or even 90% of the snaps on defense. Jermaine Carter's skill set works well for what he does, but I don't know if he's ready to switch his position and play in what I would call the most important spot on the defense, or at least the guy who has to be the most aware of what's going on at every level of the offense. You have to see what the O-line looks like, what formation they're in, what running backs in, the wide receivers, how are they lined up, all that stuff. As the middle linebacker, you probably have to be the smartest player, or at least the most aware player on the team. And I don't know if putting that kind of responsibility on a guy like Jermaine Carter, who only played about 23% of defensive snaps just last year in 2019, that puts him at 11th among players in the front 7 of this defense. I did not even count the guys who played in the secondary. He played the 11th most defensive snaps of all players in the front 7. So if you count the guys who are DBs, it probably ends up being around 15th, maybe even 16th. This was a guy who was not really trusted all that much to touch the field last season, and you saw the kind of situations we were under with the front 7, especially both. I mean, look, the D-line and the linebacker core weren't really doing their job for real. Let's be honest about that. And then even in this game against the Raiders, Jermaine Carter did not log one single snap on defense, even when we saw that there were some things going on where we could have used maybe some kind of change to stop Josh Jacobs, or maybe even stop these passes going over the middle of the field. I think there may be a reason why Jermaine Carter is not getting called up all that often. I don't know about no snaps, but I think getting the majority of snaps or starting level snaps is probably not in the cards for Jermaine Carter playing the middle of the field. It's just way too much switching. It's way more playing time, a way different play style, and things you have to keep your eye on. I think it's way too much for him right now. Now, the second most obvious idea to put out there is, why not just have Shaq Thompson play inside linebacker? Make Shaq Thompson play in the middle, and you put Jermaine Carter where he's comfortable at as an outside linebacker. That makes sense. But let's be for real here. Do we really believe that Shaq Thompson is a middle linebacker? His skill set, I mean, he's an outside linebacker. That's what he's played his whole career. He's learned how to play outside linebacker. And if you put him in the middle of the field, you lose his ability to play in coverage against some of these slot guys, maybe even tight ends to a certain degree. What he does best is be a pretty good coverage outside linebacker. He can either drop back or set the edge. That's what his real skill set is. I'm not so sure. Even though he was in the locker room with Luke Kuechly, one of the best middle linebackers to ever do it, and easily the best middle linebacker of this generation, I'm not so sure you pay the man $54 million and then tell him to play a different role with a different set of responsibilities. That seems like, even though, look, let's be honest. Shaq Thompson did not have the best game already against the Raiders, playing in the role he has been playing in and gets paid to play right now. Do I really want to switch him to a different role and expect him to play better? You don't give a guy who looks like he might be underperforming a little bit, even though right now it is a smaller sample size, it's only one game, but you don't say, I don't like how you're doing in this role. Let me give you even more responsibilities and hope you get better over there. And then we put in a guy who only played 23% of the snaps last year and make him a regular starter at your spot. Oh yeah. And you also are still getting $13.5 million per year. So play this role for me. I don't know if that's actually the smartest idea to have either. Jermaine Carter is obviously just out. That's a dead mission. Don't do that. Do not put him at middle linebacker. Shaq Thompson would be better than Jermaine Carter, and he would probably be a little bit more balanced than Tahir Whitehead, but I don't know if he'd be so good to have the same kind of impact Tahir would have in the run game, and especially with Tahir out completely from the scheme. Do we actually become a better defense, or do we become worse? I know Tahir Whitehead was kind of lost on some of these plays. He was hitting the wrong holes, and I think sometimes he reacted a little bit too quickly and got caught out of position sometimes. I understand that it's week 1. I can keep saying it, no mini camp, not a real training camp, no preseason. It's really hard to get your football legs under you under those circumstances. Plus he's new and it's a new system, all that stuff. I understand that not very many players on the defense played great. There are about 3 or maybe 4 players who I think played great. Some guys played all right, and some guys I wanted to see a little bit more out of. I don't think right now is the time to say we need to start cutting or sitting anybody. Well, this one guy I think he might have lost his job, you feel me? There's one guy in the defense, I ain't gonna say his name. You probably know who I'm talking about. Now, that guy might have lost his job. Let's talk about that a little bit later. But as far as Tahir Whitehead goes, he did about what we expected him to do. He played the run game, and he was not good against the pass. I think the best plan of action for Tahir Whitehead isn't to cut him or to bench him, but take him off the field during passing situations. Now, there were 2 guys in the linebacker core who played all 63 of the defensive snaps last week against the Raiders. That was Jermaine and Shaq Thompson. Tahir Whitehead was actually out for 6 of those snaps. He only played 90% of the snaps this past week. So there were times when, even though we were already functionally in a nickel defense with Jermaine playing outside linebacker, we did bring someone else on the field, presumably a defensive back, and we took off Tahir Whitehead. That might need to happen a little bit more. Now, if you ask me, who is that player? I couldn't tell you. I saw Corn Elder actually touched the field either 4 snaps or 6 snaps. I think it was 4. Do I really believe in Corn Elder in passing situations? No. But do I believe in Corn Elder a little bit more than Tahir Whitehead? I mean, I got to. You feel me? I just have to. And there's other options you have, like maybe even bringing Stanley Thomas Oliver up from the practice squad. Maybe if, I guess, Dante gets healthy, then you have one more DB you could bring in. It's not just Justin Burris, Troy Pride, and Rasul Douglas. Maybe one of those guys is able to come in and play in the middle of the field. Maybe you go to a dime look. I'm not sure the group of guys we have in the secondary are actually strong enough for that to be an option very regularly. But in very obvious passing downs, 3rd and long, anything longer than 3rd and 6 or 7, I would probably just bring in another defensive back and just say, if they want to run on us, we have to depend and really just trust our front line and either Shaq Thompson or Jeremy Chin to make plays, because we have to have another defensive back out there. It cannot be Tahir Whitehead, because there are teams right now who are looking at Tahir Whitehead and saying, okay, let's circle this date against the Panthers, because when it gets rough, if we see Tahir Whitehead on the field, you throw straight at him. But you have to be able to adjust and make changes and understand your players' strengths and weaknesses, and don't just say, well, we're just going to go ahead and just chalk it up and hope he does something. You have to be able to adjust and respond to what's happening on the field. Otherwise, you're just going to keep losing. And losing isn't bad, but losing because of bad mistakes and just being prideful and just hoping for the best, that's bad. Losing a hard-fought game, I can deal with that. But losing a game because we did not try something, even though we knew what we had on the field would not work, I don't like that. That's how I feel about it, man. What are your thoughts? Let me know all your thoughts about Tahir Whitehead in the comments below. And you already know what to do with that like button.
Cheers to you, appreciate the chance. Being told y'all I been the man. Being told y'all I had the gift. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Real ones gonna recommend. Count this as another win.